Nada es verdad. Todo está permitido.
Nada es verdad y todo está permitido.
Si nada es verdad, entonces todo es espectáculo.
Nada es verdad. Cada uno debe ver cómo vive.
Nada es verdad y todo está permitido. We've won. People no longer care about their civil liberties. They care about their standard of life. The modern world outgrown notions like freedom. They are content to follow.
The threat remains while free will exists. For centuries, we've tried with religion, with politics, and now consumerism to eliminate dissent. Isn't it time we gave science a try?
Hell about time.
Welcome to Science Fantasy Remnant. We've changed it up a little bit because of the movie that we're watching today. I'm your host, Ray from Down Under. Hi there.
I am your host, Robert.
Sci-fi fantasy, is that like the noodle version translation of Sci-Fi Remnant?
Yes, it is.
And this is Captain Chaos.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
We've been having some fun, in inverted commas.
Oh, yes.
Well, we have confirmed that none of us are really voice actors.
You needed confirmation for that?
Yeah, lots of failed
Speaking
attempts.
of confirmation, confirm with me what you guys have been watching recently.
I was rewatching Alter Carbon, and that's all, folks. Sci-fi.
Nice.
Good choice.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, we had that. What was it? Season 1 of Science Fiction Remnant?
I think so, yeah.
Way back when.
Way back when. So you should download that episode. Yeah, we have so much fun recording that episode. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. I remember that Robert and I were watching it together, and we were like staying up till 3 a.m. in the morning, and we had to work next day.
Yeah,
That's how hooked we were.
It was that good.
And these are grown men.
Hey, we woke up to go to work next day.
Yeah, we did what we have to do.
Yeah.
Bits of you did anyway. What have you been watching, Robert? Star Trek, right? Yep. Okay, moving on to me.
Well, it's a part 2 for me. As you all know, I'm still watching Deep Space Nine. Really, really enjoying the show. And again, just like I said in the last time, I'm really like happy that my wife is experiencing the beginning of the Kardashian Bjorn War. So that's really cool. And of course, Ahsoka. We got. I saw it was episode 7 last. And I don't want to tell you spoilers, but there was a fight there that I've been waiting to see, and there was an encounter that I've been waiting to see, and it's just totally insane. So
Dude, you can't really spoil us something that's 20 years old.
Well,
like if you haven't watched it yet, tough shit.
Well, Ahsoka, it's I was just talking about Ahsoka because it's.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were still talking about Deep Space Nine.
Yeah.
So a little bit newer than that.
Don't want to say much there, but yeah, I was like a little boy again when I watched that. So cool.
Yeah, I got to catch up on that.
Now you see, Ray, I was very I was thinking about you.
Yeah, you were. and I was about a minute ago. My brain's So, not surprisingly, with the new season of anime, there's a whole bunch of new animes that I started watching. One of them is particularly, well, it is sci-fi, but it isn't sci-fi. It actually, the setup of it, although they haven't got very far into it because it's only one episode out so far, but the setup of it is very much like a combination of Sword Art Online, which we've covered, with the whole VR MMO deep dive, full dive sort of system. So you lie down on the bed, put the headset on, and you're in another world, basically. And it's also got shades of Trapped in an Otome game. Life is Hard for Mobs, which has that sort of, it's a fantasy world, but there's sci-fi elements. So it has that same background where it's a colony that's regressed, but there are, hidden caches of ancient sci-fi technology. Haven't seen any of it yet, but it's in the description. So basically, there's this young bloke who plays a lot of VR MMOs, but he plays all the shitty ones, the badly programmed, badly written, difficult ones that people give up on because the balance is screwy and all that sort of thing. But he plays them all the way through to the end because that's his challenge. He wants to beat the worst games that are out there, and he just finishes beating one. I won't spoil it. You should check this out. It's called Shangri-La Frontier. And he finishes this game that's really shitty, and then gets his revenge on the sort of main AI character, who's particularly annoying and lousy within the game. And then he goes, well, what am I going to play next? And the woman at the gaming shop says, well, why don't you actually try a top tier, well-programmed, good game? Oh, look. Dear, there's Robert hiding behind the Discord link. So if any of you guys want to chat to us about any of these IPs or one of your own that you think should be covered, just join us on the Discord. There's a QR code you can scan, or there'll be an invite in the description that you can join us on Discord. But yeah, this Shangri-La Frontier is starting to look quite interesting, very much in the vein of Sword Art Online, with a little bit of Trapped in an Otome game thrown in for good measure. So I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. And yeah, and that same Discord, we usually post links to the stuff that we are watching. So you can go ahead and get that link from. So you have to join Discord first. So don't forget to do that.
You're missing out if you haven't.
Awesome. Did you know that I wrote another article? It came out at the time of the recording. It was last Saturday. So for all of you out there who don't know, we do post articles on our website, sciencefictionremnant.com, and let us know how you like it.
Yeah, go read us, man.
Nice. Okay, so I guess we can go into our next segment. We are Science Fiction Remnant.
This is the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
We are the Caribbean Science Fiction Network.
We are Monorats.
We are One Accord Level 2 Podcast.
This is Jesse from Sudden But Inevitable and Open Pike Night.
This is SciFi.
And if you are new to our show, you may not know that we have a hashtag. The hashtag is This Is SciFi. And it was created to help us, talk about the stuff that we like. So if you're listening to this show, you obviously have a love for science fiction. And you probably have that one special love in your life, that IP that maybe you watched since you were a kid, or maybe something new that you just can't have enough. Maybe it's done. Maybe you finished the entire season and it's not coming back. Babylon 5. So
it is coming back, actually.
Nice.
They're rebooting it, apparently.
So this hashtag, you can post about your love, your sci-fi love. And a couple of things will happen. Number one is you would get other people exposed to the stuff that you like. And you might not know, maybe that particular person may not have seen or even known that IP that you're talking about. Or maybe it is a big IP, and that person that is receiving your message with a hashtag maybe refuses to see that IP for X or Y reason. And the good thing about the hashtag is the fact that you'll expose your passion. You have your points of view. You have your comments on the stuff that you love. You have the passion for it. That's why you love it. And people would actually read that, and if they're not exposed to it, it will get them curious enough that they could at least give it a try to the first episode. Second thing that would happen is that you encounter people that have seen that thing you love. They love it as much as you do. And there you go. You got a new friend and you got a whole conversation. And that happens all throughout the socials, right? This is sci-fi. And we have conversations through that hashtag. We have the This is Sci-Fi channels. You could actually go into. We have actually a Instagram chat. We have an X chat. And if you want to join those, we also have a Threads chat. Just reach out to us and let us know, and we'll get you in. But the easiest way to reach out to us for that matter would be the Discord channel, which also is kind of like This is Sci-Fi on steroids. We have a channel for everything. And if you join and your IP love is not there, which I doubt, let us know and we'll make it a channel so we can discuss it. So that's the idea behind This is Sci-Fi, because we all love sci-fi so much and we want to share the love. Other ways that you can contribute is if you want to be on the show, basically, aside from reaching out and let us know that you want to be for that one thing that you love. You can also call our hotline. The number is 305 563 6334. Not only are you able to leave messages for the show, talk about what we have done in the past, what you like us to do in the future, or a message for any of the hosts, including hate mail for Captain Chaos, but you could actually post a comment or anything about stuff you love, just like the hashtag This is Sci-Fi, and we can make it a conversation on the show. So you'll have us three basically discussing your comments in the actual show. So if you have not experienced that and you love sci-fi, you're missing out. Definitely missing out. So
That's true.
can you guys give me your perspective? It doesn't have to be recent, but your perspective on the whole This is Sci-Fi.
Well, I like I always like to say, it's a great gateway for you to find like-minded individuals that enjoy the same IP that you like. So just go ahead and make sure that you accompany whatever you're looking for next to This is Sci-Fi hashtag. I guarantee you, there's no losses there.
Yeah, you discover new things. I've seen, and this is something that we seen all the time. Someone, and this is the reason why I mentioned it. There was a big IP they refused to watch, and they're watching now. And I seen it where people are like, "I didn't know that was a thing. Where can I get that?" And there you go. They found something else that they love, and it's just sharing the love. Ray, you had any perspective on? It doesn't have to be reason. Just the whole.
Well, I was just going to add that the more IPs that you watch, especially older ones, the more you come to appreciate different facets of new stuff that comes out. I mean, it's very unlikely that a person is going to just watch one particular. When I say IP, I mean like one show. Like you might have watched Mandalorian and you won't watch any other Star Wars. You just watch Mandalorian. That's very unlikely to happen. You're very likely to go, okay, I've watched Mandalorian. What else is out there? Oh, Ahsoka. Oh, and spread out through that particular universe. But then that universe was not created in a bubble. It's been influenced by a whole bunch of other things. So the more sort of historical sci-fi that you can get your hooks into, and the more adjacent sci-fi that you can take an interest in and watch, you'll start to see similarities and story beats and background beats that have been picked up from other things and combined to make something completely new. Case in point, the Shangri-La Frontier anime, which is very much Sword Art Online plus a bit of Trapped in an Otome game. It's got facets of both of those in its background, but it's creating a whole new thing. And you end up watching things that, although they may not be the IP or the universe that you're completely enamored with and in love with, you'll find things that you really like because they're familiar, and that will get you into other IPs. And personally, I would be very sad if I only ever watched Star Wars, I only ever watched Star Trek, or I only ever watched Aliens movie series or something like that, because there's so much other stuff out there that's so good. And I mean, you don't have to sit through every episode of Star Trek.
You forgot.
You don't have to sit through every episode of all the different seasons of the different things to do with Star Wars, but you can watch and enjoy various bits of it. And obviously you'll need some sort of guide to know what to watch, because you're not going to sit there like Robert and his wife and watch from the very beginning to the very end of something. But you can watch, you can use Google and YouTube and find out about the things that are similar to other things, and then go and watch them and enjoy that similarity. We have a plethora of information at our fingertips these days that back in the old days of sci-fi, before the internet, you just didn't have this information. You didn't have an ability to go and look up anything. And, and there we go again. That hashtag keeps coming up, doesn't it? I won't tell you what it is. You're going to have to go and watch this episode on our YouTube channel when it comes to the YouTube channel. It comes out a month after the audio, just so that the audio gets its turn, and then you've got the option to watch the video, and you get a more in-depth sort of experience with the three of us talking heads and hashtags popping up at the bottom of the screen, and all sorts of fun stuff like that. And you even get to see Gio's dog in the background sniffing his elbow and then chewing on the cords of his consoles. So that's always a bit of fun. Gio doesn't look like he's having fun just now. He's like, oh, God, that dog, eat him a cables again. But yeah, there's so much more. Just like the podcast and the video podcast are different things in the same vein. You can get different parts of different IPs that have borrowed from each other, have been influenced by each other, or are just following similar futuristic threads that tend to weave their way through a lot of the stuff that we enjoy today. So I do highly recommend that if you've stuck to one IP, that you branch out. You will find so much interesting stuff. And then you become a well-versed, wide-ranging sci-fi lover like the three of us.
If you listen to Ray and do that, you'll never finish anything you started.
There's always different ways to do things.
Yeah,
not all roads make it to Rome.
Yeah, that's why you got to watch everything from the beginning in order.
That's how Marco Polo got screwed over.
Yeah. Speaking of Marco Polo, he's in this movie.
Okay, so I guess we can move on. Unless anybody else has anything to say, we can move on to the next segment.
Yeah, let's do this.
Shout outs.
And for these shout outs, I wanted to give a special thank you to our dear Kelly Szentgyorgyi, actually. And her tag on X is Antiporo. Thank you for the continued support and being with us since ground zero. You're awesome, Kelly.
Yes.
And the second one I want to do is actually a shout out from Instagram. It's a new follow that we have from the Real Boys Pod, Boys with BZ. Basically, they are a podcast. This was very interesting. They watch everything that has to do with Pinocchio, and then they rate it, review it, and talk about it. So any version of Pinocchio that you can think of, they'll watch it, and then they'll do all these. So everybody just go and give it a follow. They're on IG. You can find them at Reels Boys with Z Pod all together.
So they should do an episode on our show.
Yeah, because you like so much, you like Pinocchio. And that is all. After letting everybody know how much of a liar Robert is. That is all for today's shoutouts.
Awesome. So I guess we can move right along to the next segment.
The Alita Army News.
It always freaks me out when you do that.
It freaks me more
So-
out when he used the female voice.
What's this one?
The Alita Army is.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm conflicted.
Forget
now.
about it, chica.
I'm conflicted now. Oh dear. Okay, so things have been a little bit quiet on that front with Alita Army News. We've recently had 999, which was Alita Day, because her number's 99, so we celebrated pretty hard for that. I just wanted to mention today that there was an interview with writer and director Robert Rodriguez, they were talking to him about the new Spy Kids reboot. This was on a YouTube interview, and they brought up other IPs that he might want to get back to, and the first thing he brought up was Alita Battle Angel, and he'd been sort of talking in not a monotone, but just sort of responding eloquently without getting too excited. But the moment that he started talking about Alita Battle Angel, his voice went up a little bit and he's looking all animated and excited. It's pretty damn obvious that Robert Rodriguez wants to get back to it. Really freaking obvious. So between that and things like a couple of months ago when James Cameron was selling his ranch in Canada, they were talking to him about that, and he was saying that his kids have grown up and moved out, and he didn't get to spend a lot of time there anymore because when he's working on Avatar, he's working in Wellington and Los Angeles, and on the new Alita Battle Angel films, I'll be working in Austin, so it didn't make sense for us anymore. Now, obviously, the Alita Battle Angel films have not been greenlit officially by Disney yet. But what people need to understand is when you're working on films, the green light is not the beginning of the process. The beginning of the process is working up a presentation to present to the people who hold the purse strings at the studio and convincing them to back the movie. So you have to go in there and give a presentation and talk about why this movie is important, how it's going to make money, the projections and all that sort of thing, and basically convince them that they're going to make their money. Yep. So the original movie is in the black. It's definitely in the black. It's made enough money to pay back all of the money that was spent on it and a bit more besides. That's been verified by a couple of sources. So we do know that it is in the black and it made money, but it didn't make billions. It didn't hit the billion mark or anything like that due to a number of factors. But now that it's under Disney and there's not going to be that issue that they had with Alita Battle Angel coming out around the same time as Marvel movies and things like that. It's all in the one basket now. So they're not going to have that antagonism, and we should see good profits on the second movie, mainly because there's now an Alita army. Didn't exist when the first movie came out. They were fans of the manga, but they weren't, coalesced into a fandom like the Alita army is now. So I truly think that sequels to Alita Battle Angel will, make bank, and a decent amount of it as well. And we're just looking forward to the time when Rodriguez and Cameron and Landau have convinced the purse string holders over at Disney to loosen the purse strings a little bit, and it gets kicked off and it's underway. Hopefully sometime later this year.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I haven't had a drink of booze for 2 years now, but I tell you what, I'm jumping off the wagon the moment the green light is announced.
Oh yeah,
jumping off the wagon and running away.
awesome. Okay, so I guess we're ready for this.
Are we really ready? Can you be ready for this movie?
I don't know because
as a sci-fi, it was a good action flick. Should be able to tell already how I feel about it.
I consider this the type of science fiction that you see in Star Wars. Does that make sense?
I think that's being generous.
That's been
Yeah. As always.
So you guys don't agree, maybe fully on that statement? Maybe iffy.
It was certainly on the same track, but it wasn't the same quality of train.
Okay, so before we move on to anything else, do we have a plot?
Well, it's questionable for this movie to whether or not it had a plot. I'm not entirely sure.
Now, I feel that I need to point out that the movie was good. At least for my point of view.
It was entertaining, and I mean, kind of hate it for those parkour techniques, and that flashy cinematography. It was fun to watch.
Before we get into the plot, I guess I should we should let our audience know where we stand with this movie. I think if you play the Assassin's Creed games, you'll definitely love this movie. At least that's my experience. Now, let me ask that question to Gio because he actually played a lot more than me. Is that statement correct, or do you feel different?
Yeah, I think it's correct. I did enjoy very much from the very first one up to Revelations, which I like 5 games. And they just to segue to what you were mentioning earlier, it's so amazing how they grab real world story, they change it to fit the plot of the game, and funnily enough, you don't realize, but you're learning a lot of freaking ancient history and geography stuff like that when you're paying attention, because it stays in your brain, you know. And it's actually pretty interesting data. I always had a knack for uh, history of civilizations, the story of art, and all those things. And it brings it home when I see a game like this, a masterpiece. They put very much effort into every little detail, and it makes you feel like you are in a glitch of the Matrix, man. When you play Assassin's Creed, that's how good it is.
Awesome. And you agree the movie is in the same vein?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that perhaps due to the equipment in hand, you cannot really recreate some things, but there are little details. You think, is most of the times it happens when you have a live action being made out of something. They take bold moves that could be all or nothing,
Yeah.
you know?
So I guess we can move on to Ray, which is someone that has not played the games.
Nope, not at all.
So what is your perspective? Do you
For
agree?
those of you that watch or play the game, you understand that Ray never watched it when he saw the eagle, and he would ask every single time, "What's up with the eagle
No,
or
I
the
didn't.
crow?"
I just said that the eagle or the falcon or whatever the hell it was got a lot of airtime, got a lot of screen time.
Yeah. Every time that he play, but that's what I'm saying, audience. That tells you right there how much he has played Assassin's Creed. Ever.
Yeah, not at all.
He can tell just for that question.
Well, I mean, fair enough. For the fans of the games, this movie probably was quite good. There was lots of nods to the games that non-game players wouldn't have got, like that one. So, I mean, I think to the game players, it probably meant a fair bit more than it did to non-game players. The budget was 125 million and the box office was 240. So it probably was on the verge of being in the black, but it's questionable. I mean, home media sales and things like that might have pushed it over the line, but I'd say it was close to being profitable. Unlike a lot of the science fictions we've covered in the last couple of months, there's been quite a few of them that didn't make money at the cinema and then became cult classics on home release.
Would you be bold enough to agree with me? I think this is the reason. But I think that the cast that they have for the movie helped a lot to make the difference.
Oh, for sure. There's
on this.
a lot of good actors in this movie. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you know, there's a lot of facets that make a movie work, whether, you know, it's got a good story, good cinematography, good special effects, good cast. Good cast is important because if people can look at those and go, oh, that's Jeremy Irons. Oh, shit, that's Michael Fassbender. You know, people have their favorites in Hollywood. And if they can see a few of them in a movie, they might just go and see it for the actors. So, I mean, that always helps.
And it's very odd how much of a difference accepted can make having a familiar face. People don't give that to, like it has a lot of importance. I think that this movie, for example, if you would have grabbed a cast of new talents that never been seen, this movie would never have made it anywhere, perhaps.
Yeah, I'd say that it certainly wouldn't have made as much as it did if the cast wasn't as good.
Not for being bad, but because it's such a niche too. Because already Assassin's Creed is a niche within gaming.
Yeah.
So how many
a movie, and then
how
you
many
have the
Assassin's Creed
gatekeepers
titles
who
are
pull
there?
out. Huh?
How many Assassin's Creed titles are there now?
1, 2, Brotherhood, Revelation, Black Flag, 3, Chronicles, Syndicate, I think Valhalla, Origins, and I think there's 10. And
You're running out of fingers.
There's 10, and then there's a couple that are like you remember that game from Prince of Persia, like a 2D?
I did a quick Google, Gio.
Yeah.
And I come up with 12.
Yeah, 12. There's 2 Chronicles and one from Russia, but they are not really like 3D open world. They're like a 2D game. So I mean, it's not that I don't think they're not a game, but it's like comparing a mini game versus an open world role play.
Well, 12 titles in a game series is pretty strong. That's a lot of players and a lot of interest. And being that, you know, like there's only like I think there's 4 titles in the what's the name of it? The last one was Andromeda.
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. So have they done a Mass Effect movie? I can't remember. They were talking about it.
No, I don't think I've heard about it.
Not yet.
Go figure. Mass Effect didn't hook me.
Yeah, but 4 titles versus 12. I mean, you've got a series of games that's got 12 titles. That's fairly strong in that there's something about that game that people just keep playing because it keeps selling, so they keep making more of them. And the fact that they can just, you know, jump to different time periods and still have the sort of story beats running through it gives it a lot of flexibility. But then you've got something as big as Mass Effect, and it hasn't got a movie. So it sort of speaks to exactly. It speaks to the popularity of this series that there's 12 titles and a movie. My personal opinion of the movie is it's a good action adventure. It's science fantasy, nowhere near science fiction. It's science adjacent.
Come on, Ray. The movie itself say it. Let's give now science a chance.
Yes, it's science. Do it for science.
You believe in magic.
No, I had to point out before you continue, Ray, that there's nothing science fiction in the game.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
And it's kind of interesting how the movie kind of added a genre, kind of. If you look at about IMDb adds the title of sci-fi to this film, which is not a title you see in the games, in any of the games.
Mm-hmm. So why did they go off the program? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, I think it's because of the storyline. You know, they needed an excuse to go back and show the audience what they wanted, which is to see the Assassin's Creed is in its natural habitat. And this is something that kind of got me excited, especially because I only played 2 of the games, right?
It's
I
two
don't
more than
claim
me.
to be an expert. But it got me excited because I honestly want to see a part 2 where you see the Assassin's Creed in today's era. And if you watch this movie to the end, you kind of see that this is where kind of they left off. And they could possibly go full sci-fi on it, if they wanted to. But it's kind of like wide open. So I think the reason why they went sci-fi is because they needed an excuse to have someone from today's time go back in time, sort of, to the times where we see what we see in the game. What do you agree with that, Gio? Since you played a lot more games than I do, that might be the reason why they went sci-fi.
Yeah, and I think even though it's not hard sci-fi, that I think that it was very creative and sophisticated the way that they use regression through DNA and muscle memory to to kind of like access back archives that are of data that is in our DNA through the agents, you know?
And I want to point out to the audience before Ray jumps on the gun, because I know he's dying to. That's not hard science. It's it's
No,
it's definitely science fantasy, but it makes sense in the story. At
here's
least
the problem. Science fantasy is sci-fi. We like it or not. We're kind of being gatekeepers by saying science fantasy and sci-fi. Because that's,
so for all of you who are not watching this on YouTube, you're missing out.
yeah, you're missing out of Ray being petty in the bottom of
Petty?
the screen.
Petty? Excuse me for accuracy being petty. Right, okay.
Just as
Sorry.
I am saying that we're being gatekeepers by keep on saying science fantasy. Come on. Star Trek and Star Wars are the same, bro.
Oh, Star Wars, yeah, Star Trek, not so much.
Oh God. Okay. Ray, sorry to for hijacking you.
Really? Really? Well, I know why you hijacked me, because you didn't want me to sit here for like 40 minutes ragging on the thing. I understand. Now, look, as an action adventure, it was quite a good movie. It was quite watchable. But the fact that they based it on pseudoscience bullshit really rubbed me the wrong way. I have to say, a non-scientific person going into watching this, just accepting the bullshit that they shovel into your mouth and chewing on it and swallowing it, you probably would have enjoyed this quite a lot. Like you said, I don't understand why they went from what I understood of the Assassin's Creed story that had no sci-fi in it to trying to shoehorn in some pseudo sci-fi to create the story that they did here. It wasn't a terrible story. It's just the way they did it, which just made no sense. Like they had no scientific advisor. They just made shit up and pretended it worked and had a story. And for entertainment, that's okay. But when you're a trained scientist, you look at this, go, that's not how that works. What the?
Ray's just displeased that nobody can explain with real science that fantasy, even though it's science fiction.
I kind of understand. I do understand what Ray is coming from. I think that it would have been a complete different experience if they did the movie like the games, exactly like the games, because it would still make sense.
That would have been that would have been a great undertaking. I mean, they couldn't even do the Spanish Castellan accent properly.
Oh God, we were laughing because
It's like, you are a legendary assassin Aguilar from Spain with a gringo accent. Really?
Yeah.
How
He's
he
from
never
the-
got?
he's
How
from the
didn't
stick.
he got caught before, bro? How did he got caught before? Like, hey, this is America here. Pick him up.
That's not a knife. This is a knife.
He doesn't have the hidden dagger. He's using an AR-15.
And for all of you out there who are wondering, we were trying to do a Spanish accent at the beginning of this episode. Trying.
Yeah, I hope that nobody like heard the beginning of the show and went, "Oh, this is a Spanish podcast." I do speak English. Turn it off. It's like, crap. I hope that didn't happen.
Oh, wow. So, yes, I guess it's 2 out of 3, right?
Yeah. Are we going to do what was your first take the first time you saw this? Because it was the first time I saw it.
Well, let me take a before we answer that question. Let me gauge this. Gio, did you watch this earlier when it came out?
I have to admit, I know that I existed and never bothered to watch it.
So when was the first time you watched it? Was it when I advised it?
Yeah.
Or was it so you two kind of saw it. Okay. But you had the experience of the game.
Yeah, and that could be damaging if you're demanding. You guys have told me to be mediocre with my criticism. So
let's do this. We're gonna have Ray answer the question first. Then I'll move on next because although I saw this movie a long time ago when it first came out, I haven't played much of the games, and then we move on to our Captain Chaos. So the question, if you are new to this show that we always ask, is how old were you, and what was your first impression of this film? So Ray.
I'd like to say I was today years old, but it was a couple of days ago that I watched it, so I can't. But I'm very fresh. Like, I've never played the games, and I've only seen the movie once. It seemed to have good production values. I mean, it was 125 million budget, so it wasn't a cheap movie. Good actors. There was a couple of really strong scenes that I quite liked. If you're into that sort of parkour-y action fight scenes.
It's an intermediate parkour.
Well, it's intermediate parkour, but there's a lot of this jumping around the rooftops and stuff, fighting each other, which was cool. I mean, it's cool to watch that sort of stuff. So that was entertaining. Probably the third or fourth time he was doing it, I was starting to get a little bit, oh, come on, get on with it. but the first couple of times was
just
quite
jump.
Yeah. But I mean, if you trust the science, the story hung together, and you know, it brought the history into modern day and created an interesting story. So it wasn't a bad movie. It's just that the science really didn't hold up at all.
Okay. I saw this movie closer to when the movie came out. And I played only 2 of the games of Assassin's Creed. I really liked the game. I really liked the story, and I do admit I did not finish the games because at the time I was playing other games, and just kind of like what happens to me when watching TV episodes. If I'm watching too many, one of them is going to fall through the cracks. However, I do love the story. My first impression on this film is number one, I was really excited because there is a movie, you know, and I remember watching the trailers when they first announced it. There's a movie made from a game that I played. That's always really exciting to me when we get something live action. So I was really looking forward to watching this film. I do have to admit also that as a fan of the game, I did not pay much attention to the science. I did took the science for whatever it was, and then enjoy, and I actually enjoyed the film. I do know that the science doesn't add up. So it is more science fiction. I mean, science fantasy than science fiction. But I was just tickled to death, and my first impression is that um, the movie was actually good. In my
I
perspective,
mean, come on, Robert. You like Dragon Balls. Come on.
for my first impression on the film, I really loved it, which was something that it's really scary because we have so many cases nowadays where they make a movie out of something and then they just mess it up, and the movie's not good. Um, so I was really glad that, to me at least, that it was a good. So, Gio, what is how old? Well, you just saw it recently, but you played a lot of the games.
Oh yeah, since the very first one, which, if I'm not mistaken, Assassin's Creed One was a Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 release game. So it came
So,
out when the console released.
so what was your first impression of the film?
Oh, I mean, it was fun. It was properly elaborated. The beautiful thing about Assassin's Creed is that there's not a plot for you to stick to. There is the main mission, and then you can just grab that and put it in any societal place across the years, and it will fit in perfect. You know, there's always work to be done in the shadows or by the Brotherhood, if you want to call it something. So it was a very interesting and refreshing new perspective of Assassin's Creed. It was fun. I think it was smartly done. Some things could have been better done, but that would have taken to um, I don't know. I feel like I'm picky when I saying that. It's just that I like that much the IP. And then I assure you, I have friends that didn't like the movie because that's how hard they are on it has to be that similar. For them, it will be the difference that they did the Hitman movie, but they didn't make the guy bold,
Yeah, yeah.
you know. But in my opinion, the movie was well made. I think that the adaptation to how technologies are used in the game versus in the movie were also very, very smartly done. And it was a very bold move because it completely changes the system. You see that in the game, you are laying on a bed, and in the movie, you see that it's different. You have like a neural reader, and they put you in this arm that gives you motions. So, but it came out pretty good, I think. It came out pretty good.
Were you not excited to know that there was a movie made from the games you played so much?
The bad talk was so big that I didn't.
Oh, I see. I see. So you were
But
already
when I watched it, I enjoyed it. It was very good. And that's the beautiful thing about being able to take things for what they are. You know, it's not like I'm watching a Star Trek and they're gonna take a big shit with diarrhea on the canon of the show and do fucking butterflies with it. That was not the case. That's the beautiful thing about Assassin's Creed. He uses real history and then falsifies it and plays around with it. So you're learning about things that really happened, but they didn't really happen like it happened in the game. They change it and alternate them to
Yeah.
give you that twist. And that's one of the fun thing about Assassin's Creed too. It's kind of like the creators of the game, the whole team, do a stellar job blurring the lines of reality. To me, that's the real meaning of a true experience, of having an experience being given.
Yeah.
That's what they provide with these games, an experience.
Um, Ray, I know we have a plot. Um,
Maybe.
should we at this time just summarize it, or what do you feel? Should we?
I'll just pound through the plot because summarizing it could take longer than actually just reading it.
Okay.
In 1492 Andalusia, during the Granada War, Aguilar de Nerha is accepted into the Assassin's Brotherhood and assigned to protect Prince Ahmed de Granada from the Templar Order. In 1986, adolescent Callum Lynch finds his mother killed by his father, Joseph, an assassin. Gunmen led by Alan Rikin, CEO of Templars, Abstergio Foundation arrive to capture Joseph, who persuades his son to escape. God, there's a lot of difficult to pronounce words. In 2016, Cal is sentenced to death for murdering a pimp, but Abstergio fakes his execution and takes him into their research facility in Madrid. The Templars are after the Apple of Eden, an artifact built by a long-lost civilization. I don't think that's actually correct. I think it was provided by God, but anyway, according to what I saw in the movie.
Yeah, you're right.
Using the Apple's code, they can control humanity's free will and eliminate violence. Well, it was stated that what was in the Apple was the genetic codes for free will. So basically, you could edit humanity's genetic code to remove free will, which means that they got control over everybody.
Hey, that's totally fine. It's just like, okay, let's override all these motherfuckers so they cannot say no.
Well, you couldn't accept humanity then because they were genetically modified.
Yep. Christmas time. Christmas time is here.
Cal is a descent of Aguilar, the last person confirmed to be in possession of the apple. Sophia, Alan's daughter and head scientist, puts Cal in the Animus, a machine which allows him to relive and the scientists to observe Aguilar's genetic memories so that Aspergio can learn of the apple's whereabouts. In 1492, Aguilar and his partner Maria are deployed to rescue Ahmed, who has been kidnapped by the Templar Grand Master Thomas de Torquemada, to coerce Ahmed's father, Sultan Muhammad XII, to surrender the apple. Aguilar and Maria intercept the Templars but are overpowered and captured by Torquemada's enforcer, Ojeda. Sophia then pulls Cal out of the Animus. Cal encounters other assassin descendants held in captivity in the facility, most of whom are suspicious of him, with the exception of Lin, a descendant of 16th century Chinese assassin Xiao Jun, and Masusa, a descendant of 18th century Haitian assassin Baptiste. Were those guys in any of the games? Do you know?
I don't think so. Gio, were they? You're muted, by the way.
Sorry, you were saying if they were other assassins
No, the people in the movie.
in the movie? Yeah.
Xiao Jun and Baptiste, were they in any of the games?
No, that's the problem. It's so funny. The only assassins, as far as I can recall, that are related somehow from game to game are Altair and then Ezio Auditore, which is the role that it's played as an assassin in Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood. But after that, I mean, think about it. The Assassin's Creed is a worldwide occult organization, an anti-hero, but it's worldwide. So, like, you have different bits everywhere. Like, I'm playing right now. I'm not playing it these days, but I got the Valhalla, for example. It's a whole different heritage that doesn't make connection to the Middle East with few years of it.
I was just going to say, I just thought it would have been cool if characters from the games were turning up in the movie.
Oh, yes.
Would have linked it together a bit stronger.
Yeah.
That would have been like a Cyberpunk City Project push project, just like they did with the anime. And that's a beautiful thing about Assassin's Creed. I think that there's a lot of potential to do very, very good anime or manga about it, because the story is very deep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Cal begins experiencing hallucinations dubbed the bleeding effect of both Aguilar and Joseph. During the session, Sophia confides in Cal that her mother was likewise murdered by an assassin, sharing his hatred for the Brotherhood. Back in the Animus, Aguilar and Maria are scheduled for execution at an auto de fe? I don't even know how to pronounce that. But he manages to free them, leading to a rooftop chase in which they escape through a leap of faith. Cal's mind reacts violently to the session and he is temporarily paralyzed. He desyncs, according to the pseudoscience. After learning that Joseph is also in the facility, Cal confronts him over his mother's death. Joseph informs Cal that the bleeding effect will allow him to gain Aguilar's skills. He also reveals that Cal's mother was an assassin and chose to die by Joseph's hand rather than be forced into the Animus. Unconvinced, Cal vows to destroy the assassins by finding the apple. Meanwhile, Alan is possessed by a Templar elder. Alan is pressed. Possessed. Where did I get that from? Alan is pressed by a Templar elder, LMK, to shut down the multi-million-dollar Animus project because they have already won. People no longer care about their civil liberties. They are content to follow, leading Sophia to question her father's true intentions.
The sheeple.
Sorry?
The sheeple.
Yeah, sheeple. Reaffirmed by his encounter with Joseph, Cal enters the Animus. Aguilar and Maria ambush a meeting between Muhammad and Torquemada. They kill Torquemada's men and recover the apple, but Ojeda captures Maria. She chooses to die to protect the apple and stabs herself with Ojeda's blade, allowing Aguilar to kill Ojeda and escape through another leap, the force of which causes the Animus to malfunction. Aguilar later gives the apple to Christopher Columbus, who vows to take it to his grave. When Musa and the modern assassin prisoners start to riot in order to escape, Alan orders the facility purged. Aspergio security kills Joseph and most of the other prisoners. Cal stands in the Animus chamber and meets the projections of his ancestors, including Aguilar, Arano, Dorian, Joseph, and his mother, while Sophia glimpses the projections of an assassin resembling her. Persuaded by his mother, Cal embraces his assassin heritage and, having fully assimilated Aguilar's abilities, joins Musa and Lynn in escaping the facility. Having retrieved the apple from Christopher Columbus's burial vault, the Templars convene at a ceremony in London Sanctuary to celebrate their triumph. Inside the sanctuary, a disillusioned Sophia meets Cal, who has come to take the apple, and she reluctantly allows him to act. Cal retrieves the apple, killing Alan in the process. Sophia vows revenge. The assassins depart, swearing once again to protect the apple from the Templars. Roll credits.
All of that for a fucking apple.
Yeah. You just go down to the supermarket and buy one.
I feel that we should give a little context on the story. And I'm going to start, and I'll let Gio finish. So in this, not necessarily the story, but I'm talking about the story, the whole IP story, that's initiated in the games.
So the overarching plot.
Exactly. So in general, this is the whole thing started right around 1118. A French knight by the name of and I apologize, I'm gonna mispronounce this.
You're in good company. I do it all the time.
The Payens was a military. He created a military order that was known as the Poor Fellow Soldiers of Christ of the Temple of Solomon, that followed the Christian faith, that was later known as the Knights Templar. And as I understand it, the reason that why that was created is during the Crusades, the Christian Church took control of. They captured Jerusalem from Muslim control, and that was in 1099. So what happens is you have people from the European visiting the area, the Jerusalem area that was controlled, and the Muslims, they still feel that they were robbed. So what they do to try to defend themselves with the little that they can, and they would like mug and killed whenever they can to those people that come in their land. So this is the reason why the Knights Templar was created back in 1118, is to try to protect the people that were in the Christian-controlled Jerusalem. And they eventually got the Pope's endorsement in 1139. And I believe they actually they fell. The Knights Templar fell in 1303. Most of the remaining troops, because this was still a military organization, were tortured, and under torture they were they actually admitted to crimes of the church, and they were executed for it, and that's how it ended. So basically, what the story, as I understand it, and basically how they play, which story they picked for this movie, those defenders, the ones that would fight against the Knights Templar, were the Assassin's Creed, were the Creed, basically. So what? Notice that this was 1303, but the movie starts in, what was it, 14? I forgot.
Scrolling up.
1492.
Yeah.
So you would think, okay, how is there Templars? Why is the Creed fighting Templars when the Templars died in 1303? And the whole idea is this is actually playing into the conspiracy theory subject, that after 1303, some of the Knights Templars um, were still alive, kind of like what happens after Order 66 of the Jedi.
Whistleblowers.
And no, not whistleblowers. They just, just like the Jedi, they were hiding, and they created a secret society. And this is basically what we see in this in this movie. So that the secret society was actually um, fighting against the Creed for the what was it, the free will that was inside the apple. So, Gio, based on what I just said, since you played more games than I did, can you tell me if I missed something, if you want to add something, and how the games differ? Because I know there's a variation in the games. That's the great thing about the games too, is the fact that like for example, Valhalla has nothing to do with Ezio from
No, not at all. Or origins on Egypt had nothing to do neither.
Okay.
Hmm.
Can I add something before we go too far away?
Okay.
Robert, you should know that the movie was in 1492 because of the poem. In 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue and discovered America too. So if he was talking to Christopher Columbus, who was about to set sail, it had to be 1492,
A little
didn't
bit
it?
too late.
So, Gio, can you add to what I just said, and also tell us, from your personal experience, the differences that are within the games that you read?
Well, when it comes to them selling the image of uh, Animus Abstergo, they did a great job.
Okay.
They did a great job, and it does sells the image that is actually like a very advanced, technologically speaking, mental institution,
Mhm.
which makes it more ominous. But they did a good portrayal. It brought me back memories of the game because you get to do little walkthroughs here and there while you're playing of those scenes and facilities.
Mhm.
They did a good job connecting it back and keeping it on the universe, not making changes that were so daring that could have lost audience. I don't think so. Uh, and I mean, there's a lot of things that you get to see the main character doing on the movie that you can literally do it uh, in the games, And that's what Assassin's Creed, the beauty of it's about. It's a role play game, so you can really be whatever you like. You can build your character however you like, and have a very unique experience if you think about it. Which I think that's what most games should be these days, is a good experience, not a like that guy that you guys were talking about for an anime that just likes to pass difficult MMORPGs. It's just there's a difference between being a gamer and enjoying something and being an achiever and just wanting to have it collected on your list of I did that.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
the reason why I was asking that question is because, like, if you take, for example, the latest iteration, Valhalla, that is placed in Viking times, correct?
Yep. And they actually use the map of UK.
So eh, this is one of the cool things about this, let's call it IP, the entire IP in general, is that they all are around the same story, not story, like general idea.
They are
They
shared origins, but they
exactly.
are not the same story.
Exactly. So in theory, what happens in the movie, although has did not happen in any of the games that I know of, could be made into a game and still be original to the Assassin's Creed line.
They could have, but I can tell you from the top of the head, I cannot recall one character that was eminent enough or memorable for me to tell you, yeah, that guy was in games so and so.
No. What I was saying is that the fact that the IP is so wide, this movie can be turned into a game, and the characters from the movie could be the characters in the game. And to be honest with you, I would love to play an Assassin's Creed that is set in 2023 London.
That would be fun.
So this is what I'm saying. The IP itself is so wide when it comes to the plot and the story. As well, you know, if you played Assassin's Creed game, if you're listening to all of you listening to our show here, if you play the Assassin's game, you know what I'm talking about. Um, the IP, it's so wide in the story. I mean, we have one in Italy, we have one in Viking times. Um, there's none in Madrid, right? This is just
Uh,
the movie.
yeah.
But they're all set in different ones.
Well,
So
here's the thing: when you play Assassin's Creed 2 and the Brotherhood, you learn about the Brotherhood, which is when the assassins reveals to the main character, which is played by supposedly Desmond Miles. That's the name of the character outside of the Animus and inside of the Animus. Uh, and that's the funny thing. Like in most of the games, I think that at least until Assassin's Creed Revelations, you are the same guy. You are Desmond Miles playing in each different Assassin's Creed, a different ancestor in a different timeline. Like Altair, we're talking about uh, before 1000 BC, very recent to the crucifixion, actually, if you think about it. And then
yeah.
it starts moving gradually forward, and then it bounces back somewhere. Like Origins is in ancient Egypt. Ancient Egypt is what, 5,000
Oh,
years before the
yeah.
Bible?
Yes.
You
So,
know?
and you know, and this is what they did in the movie, which I had to appreciate, the
Hmm.
fact that he is the ancestor. Kyle is the ancestor of Aguilar,
Hmm.
so in that manner, they keep on with the IP and the general like.
Yep,
You,
that is
you know
correct.
how I asked Gio a question about did any of the characters in the movie appear in the games? Well, while you guys were talking, I was reading further down the wiki page, and it turns out that pretty much all of those other assassin people who had taken over the skills of their ancestors are in the games.
Oh, there you
All of
go.
them. Yep. So
The list.
Matthias Valor played Emir, a captive of the Aspergio Foundation and a descendant
Oh,
of Yusuf Tazim, an Ottoman assassin who led the Brotherhood in Constantinople until his death in Templar hands in 1512. Yusuf Tazim appears in Assassin's Creed Revelations. Callum Turner as Nathan, a captive of the Aspergio Foundation and a descendant of Duncan Warple, an English assassin active during the golden age of piracy, who defected to the Templars due to his dissatisfaction with the Brotherhood and was killed by pirate Edward Kenway in 1715. Duncan Warple appears in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. And Michelle H. Lin as Lin, a captive of the Aspergio Foundation and a descendant of Xiao Jun, a Chinese assassin who vanquished the Templars and rebuilt the Brotherhood in China in the early 16th century. Xiao Jun appears in Assassin's Creed Embers and Assassin's Creed Chronicles China.
Wow.
So, yeah,
Nice.
super linked to the games. super linked. So they did, I would have expected as much, really.
And our very own Captain Chaos is muted.
You see, but still, like those characters, even though they were in other games, they were not main characters.
Exactly. And I venture
You know?
to say that that's the reason why, for those ones that I encountered, they hate the movie or they did not like the movie. I think that might have been the reason why. I mean, it would be kind of nice to be able to see like some of the main characters like as the main character in this movie, and this did not happen. They chose to create something new for this.
Yep. And I think that it was a good move because they did a bold move about reinventing certain things, but at least they didn't take somebody else's work. They built from the ground up Aguilar's destiny and what's happening, which is kind of the same thing that happens in Assassin's Creed 1. When you start, you need to find the forbidden apple.
Yeah.
That's basically what you're doing, which is a funny sense of time travel, kind of what you told me always. Time travel works in the future. So when they're looking for that apple, they're looking for where whoever was the last one to have it might have hid it, so they can go and look at it at the present. So it's like they're looking for time capsules from the past.
Yeah. So, Ray, did you finish what you were saying? I mean, we kind of
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure because
No, I was just going back to that whole was the movie at all linked via characters to the games, and yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Like,
that was
big time.
impressive. They escaped me, man, completely.
Well, they weren't main characters. I mean,
Exactly.
with that many games, you can't remember all the bit parts. So it wasn't any of the main characters, but it was still linked. So,
Yeah,
real
absolutely.
deep diving aficionados of the game lore would have recognized it.
I
So,
like the
basically an
franchise, but
Easter
I'm
egg.
not that much of a fan. But
I did not.
but I like it enough. No, me neither. I will venture to say that places where they could showcase other assassins that could have played any kind of role in here are in games like maybe Assassin's Creed Brotherhood or Assassin's Creed 2, where they use very much oh my god, the thought escaped me, man. When they use very much basically the actual timeline and keep a continuum. But for example, in Brotherhood and in Assassin's Creed 2, they introduced the community of assassins, So it's a great opportunity for our main character to get to know a higher tier assassin that is going to mentor him now to the next level. And so these are the good opportunities where perhaps these other characters are mentioned, because even all of them are aware somehow of him. I don't know if you remember when the movie started, they start calling him Pioneer.
Yeah.
And it's like it was kind of funny and interesting the way that they play it out, because I mean, how fucking crazy is that you can actually do all that shit just by getting a machine? That will get you addicted real quick. And the crazy thing is that once they get that knowledge or kind of reanimated on this device, the Animus, it actually works physically on the person. So it's like programming the mind, just like Neo was doing in the Matrix. He was learning disciplines, but in a more elaborated way. If you think about it, right?
Yeah, I think that could have that if that was a possible scenario, that would have caused some neurological damage.
Yeah.
It has to.
Not only that, but it begs question: what if you end up frying the brain so much, or if you end up creating an effect where the person that is gonna come back from the animals is not who went, but whoever the ancestor is. Imagine.
Yeah. And that is a nice segue to where I wanted to go next.
Ray, don't bite your tongue that hard.
Hold up. I know Ray is dying, and I'm
He's
going to give him.
suffering, bro.
I'm not dying. I've attempted that once this year. I don't
He's
think I want
eating
to do it
steak
again.
tonight. He's
I
eating
am-
steak tonight, and I'm not talking about the plate. He's just biting himself.
I am going to open the door with this question for Ray.
You sure you want to open the floodgates, man? You
Uh-oh.
I'm
sure
going
you
to
want to
open
do
the
that?
floodgates. I'm just going to pick up my feet from the floor so I don't get wet.
Wow.
So here's the question. From your personal opinion, from your perspective of the film, and you don't have to mention all of them, obviously, but what science in the film did not work and why? And again, you don't have to mention everything in it. If you don't have to, you can mention all the ones that you do remember. So
Are you sure you want to do this to the listeners?
well, the thing is, the reason why we do this show is to, if I like to inform somehow, somewhat, then I'll do. And I'm going to do a little disclaimer here. That doesn't take away from the fact that, to me, it was a good movie. And I really, really enjoyed it. For many reasons. Maybe I'm biased because I really like the games.
Yeah, but why would you listen to Robert? He likes Dragon Ball. He says that there's a live action of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Would you believe that?
Well, the floodgates are opening. If you're watching YouTube, you know why. And I have picked up my feet so I don't get wet.
Well, actually, we probably should save the majority of that for science behind science fiction, because that will basically take what I was planning to do.
Oh, that's
in
fine.
Science behind science fiction away. But let's just say that there was a whole lot of bullshit going down, which, if you know anything about how genetics works and even epigenetics, it was completely made up.
Yeah.
Now, look, I would have been happy if they'd come up with some other, like, look at a movie like Ghostbusters, right? It wasn't scientifically accurate, but it hung together in its own universe with explanation, right? They didn't try to overwrite.
Put a ghost in a vacuum cleaner box.
Yeah. I mean, they had explanations which didn't counteract what's known in science in Ghostbusters to explain how they did what they did. And it hung together because they didn't go directly against what is currently known. And this is a 2016 movie, so it's not
so literally it looks cool and it hasn't been debunked as bullshit yet, so we can still enjoy it.
Well, the whole thing about science is science doesn't say if something is possible or not. Science says what we understand right now.
Mm-hmm.
But when you deliberately go and say something that is known not to be a thing, then it's pseudoscience and it's bullshit.
I agree.
What's the difference between pseudoscience and science fiction?
Well, science fiction is a possibility. Pseudoscience is just bullshit.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Yeah,
there you go.
Difference. Now, I'm always happy if a science fiction says, "Oh, this is how it works according to our universe," and it doesn't go against science as we understand it today. But
let me ask you
something that we don't understand. If we don't understand it, I'm fine with it. If we do understand it and it goes against it, then I have a problem with it. Do you understand the difference?
Give me the idea. And yeah, audience, I am the conspirationist of the group. I'm the whistleblower of Area 51 here.
Oh, God.
Captain
What's up?
Chaos
What's up, NSA? How you doing, homies?
Should I get ready for
But
this?
but do you think that is pseudoscience when I asked about optogenetics weeks ago?
No. Optogenetics is the thing. You asked me if it could do what you were afraid it could do, and I said, well, from my understanding of it, I don't think it can do it, but I don't know everything about it.
Okay.
It was a reasonable question.
Okay.
And I gave you the answer that I could give you, and none of it was pseudoscience.
The conspirationists make a good question. Hold yourselves.
Well, the problem
is near.
The problem with conspiracy theories is that I don't believe that humanity can work together well enough to actually achieve them.
That's the thing. Conspiracy theories are not about humanity working together.
Oh, yeah, they are.
It's about an elite working. But and that's the problem with conspiracies too. They can be very plausible things too, but the word conspiracy kind of revokes the whole seriousness behind any claim or question about something.
Hey, listeners, our Captain Chaos is a Knight Templar.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past him.
Oh, so you're not admitting or denying?
No.
Okay, good.
There's a reason I have a claymore on my other studio, remember? And I have a centurion sword here. So
yeah, you're here first.
that's true. There was an Assassin's Creed even for freaking Rome.
Mm-hmm.
There's one almost virtually in every fundamental era that shaped up society to what it was politically and socially today. There's been practically one on all of them. The only Assassin's Creed I'm really dying for it to come, if they ever gonna make it, is something like on the Edo era. You know?
Oh yes, that would be awesome.
I've been waiting for that, but I mean, I've been waiting for that since before Valhalla, but I was very pleased with Valhalla because they added this thing that they try to do it when they did Brotherhood, where you could like manage battles like RTS games. So you could do wars like that on Assassin's Creed Brotherhood too. In Valhalla, they added a mode where basically once you move to the New World, which is Great Britain, basically you have a camp and you have to, besides doing missions and shit, open world, you have to go back to your camp and you have to actually manage your camp, upgrade the buildings so you can have better blacksmiths, better traders and markets, better medicine makers and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting because it keeps it very variated, even though you have that exploratory sense of the game. They added this other portion that gives you kind of like an administrator too of your own crew. That they never did that in any other Assassin's Creed. They don't show that much in here, but it's part of like being a top tier assassin, which Lynch in the movie kind of is, because everybody looks up to him, even though he's a newbie.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were basing an Assassin's Creed game in the Edo period, would it be based around Ronin or ninjas?
Ronin, ninjas, and samurais.
Yeah. I envision
remember there are three factions at war because ninjas are like the dark faction. The anarchists are the ones that want to keep things as they were. And then you have the samurais that serve their lords, and you have the Ronins that are disliked by everybody because they don't have a lord. They're like lawless samurais.
I don't know why, but for some reason I envision the Ronins would be the Creed.
Yep.
And maybe the samurai would be the Templars.
Yeah, it could be the samurai, the Templars, or the samurais could be just like that impediment, and the Templars could be the ninjas.
Oh yeah, true.
Because I mean, think about it. It just makes it. It's like being an assassin in any other Assassin's Creed. You have two enemies. You have the Templars, and then you have the lawmakers.
You know, you said that, and that gave me a question for Ray. What? And I don't know. I don't know if this would be a good answer, a good question. You let me know. And Gio, you can add your thoughts to that too. Um, what changes would you have to make to the movie to make it more plausible? Is that something that you could answer? And Gio, can also after Ray's response, you could actually do your answer. Um,
So I've been thinking about this as a writer. I'm always trying to make less bullshitty, more believable sort of story setups, and internal consistency is important. I mean, if they'd said something like if they'd used the term epigenetics and had some sort of other than just genetic code, they'd added something to it, or they said, oh, the quantum field around the genes is such that it's containing this information, or something like that. You know, something that we don't understand fully that could possibly do what they want. But when they just said, oh, we're just reading it off the genetic code and we're getting 4K Ultra HD memories, it's just like, I don't think that's how that would work. I can't see it working like that, because like there's been lots of people in between. Wouldn't you have, 6 hours of them sitting on the bog or watching television or something? Would it be full of other useless crap?
yeah,
Quite literally. So I it just doesn't work. But I mean, as I was saying before with Ghostbusters, I mean, they had logic within their universe of the story that didn't go against current scientific knowledge. It was just in areas that we don't understand fully, or they created areas that don't exist in our universe, which exist in theirs, and made it fit and make sense to a point that that then you could follow it, and it didn't sort of break. As a scientist, didn't break current knowledge, but this breaks current knowledge completely. So if they said something like, rather than reading it out of your genes, maybe they required a descendant, and then they could use some sort of ancient ritual to pull the descendants, pull the person of interest into the descendant, like pull their soul into the descendant and read it out of the soul or something like that. And that's why they required him, because they needed a descendant to do it. Would make a whole lot more sense than pseudoscience bullshit. Sense in a way that it's something in the universe that makes sense to them and they can do it, but it's not necessarily in our universe. But it doesn't break current knowledge.
Here's the tricky thing that they play with in Dabble since the first Assassin's Creed is they use DNA as a universal source of information. Because the very first Assassin's Creed, which I'm talking about, not even 200 AD, every time that you kill a target, like a henchman, not a henchman, but like a boss or something, what does he do when he kills it? He grabs a little piece of fabric or feather, and he literally soaks that feather on the blood, and they have archives of blood samples of important people that they have targeted and killed, confirmed killed, which is very interesting. And you have the other element that kind of brings up the whole bullshit of DNA regression really is far fetched, but you're talking about the apple of Eden, which is supposedly lost advanced civilization technology. You know, just by putting that out there, anything can be possible. And it's like you guys said, very advanced technology will look like magic to K people if I have an iPhone. So it looks like magic to us, that DNA regression. Of course, there's not a very elaborate explanation about it that can at least fool you to take it, you know?
Yeah, that I think is all done to the explanation. That's where the if there were some plausible explanation, maybe.
hmm
Um, do you think that some sort of time travel might fix that loop?
It's tricky because it's like they are reliving the experiences of their ancestors, but they never touch the what if you were to divert for what your ancestors should have done and do something different and change the present. That
Well,
never happened or is presupposed in the any game or in the movie.
what I was thinking, and Ray, let me know if what your thoughts are too. What I was thinking is some sort of like time travel where you are not there, you're still experiencing like in the movie, and it's only due to the ancestor.
Yeah.
So you as you could actually, since they were your ancestors, you could only experience that through time travel, as a display form, kind of like how they did it in here. Um, I for some reason, and again, don't get me wrong, I loved the movie. I liked how it was done. But I think for science fiction sake, that might have fixed that issue. What do you guys think? Again, not time travel in the fact that you go in and change the past. I'm just saying exactly how it happened in the movie, where you were just experiencing um that kind of time travel.
So again, the premise here was that he was just experiencing the genetic memories. He wasn't able to act or change anything.
Correct.
And basically, what you're saying, time travel, but you can't act. You can only observe.
Exactly.
Yeah. So much to the point. So much to the point. Keep in mind the observation that if they don't, they desynchronize and they have to start all over again. The memory.
Exactly.
So it's like, and they actually put that in the movie, like they put it on the games. They are memory synchronization segments, and as you go putting them together, you go progressing. And basically, if you die or something, it's not like it's Matrix real death. If basically you desynchronize, it disconnects you from the animals, and you have to try it all over again. But you have to do that pathway. It's like it looks like open world. It gives you that illusion, but really, it's just like a pathway that you have to go straight, and you have to do certain things in that order, or if not, you're not gonna progress to the next level.
So
But it wouldn't work as to me. That's not time traveling. That's just literally uh, consuming media at a meta level.
okay.
It's like me going and reliving my great grandfather's life, but I am acting as him. Giancarlo is not there, and he's not making any kind of hindrance in his decisions.
So your answer is it's not going to fix it.
Yeah.
Wait, what do you agree with Gio as in it's not going to fix it, or do you have any thoughts?
It gets a little bit tricky. If you can poke a hole in it, then it's not fixed. Basically, if there's a logic hole, then it's still a sieve. You've got to fill up all the logic holes before it's going to hold water.
Exactly. But I think that's why I think that it was clever, but that's why they kind of predisposed. There's no changes to the set of events that you could really change the future. That's never brought into the Assassin's Creed uh, IP as a possibility. Imagine how dangerous that will be. Then they wouldn't be even looking for the like Eden's apple anymore. They will be looking to change the past to manipulate the present,
Exactly.
and they can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah, but the time travel that I was talking about is just visually. It's just visual. You observe. Um,
Exactly.
you're not able to, and you can come back, right? And maybe you come back because you desynchronized, and you're like, okay, this is what happened. We gotta go back in. It's causing some neurological effects, so I have to wait for tomorrow, and we can try again. And I can join in a minute.
Yep.
A minute.
And a minute. And get you back into the anus.
Oh God.
I think we need to start a new podcast where we teach people how to pronounce stuff, including ourselves first.
Exactly. Please. We need you to join our show for that.
Yes. Pronunciation podcast.
But yeah. In short, to answer you, Robert. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't even know if it will be considered time traveling. You're basically just experiencing the past that you didn't leave.
Okay.
But you don't. Even though the game gives you that feel that you get to do it, the biggest freedom that you ever get is in the order that you can do. Like in all Assassin's Creeds, you progress in sets of memory synchronization data, and you have to assemble it all together before you move to the next set. You get to choose in what order you do it, but you have to do them all, or you have like a minimum of them that you have to have in order for you to move forward.
Okay.
But
So-
but your progression is irrefutable. Like you're gonna have to kill this and this guy, and if you don't, you're gonna keep on desynchronizing and have it to repeat it all over, and you're never gonna progress in the game if you don't. And I think that in Assassin's Creed in the movie for Lynch, it's the same thing. That's why I don't know if you notice, but intuitively he kind of synchronizes and follows through his survival instinct to do what he must do.
Yeah. So I guess the answer for both of you is no.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about you, Dreamer?
Who, me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking about it and how it will definitely change the storyline. Um, I kind of have to agree with Ray that even if I agree, yes, um, it would not fix all the holes. So, with that being said, the answer for me would have to be no, also, because now I have to spend some time in fixing all the other holes. So, another question that I want to ask is something that came up to me the very first time that I saw this movie.
Hey, just before you go on, I just wanted to add one little thing to sort of show people how logic in movies can really slip by you, and once you realize something, you can never take it back, kind of thing. And this came from Big Bang Theory, if anybody remembers that show. It was one of my faves back a while back now. And basically, they came to the realization in the show that if you took Indiana Jones out of Raiders of the Lost Ark, then the movie would progress and the plot would progress exactly the same way. It wouldn't have the same story beats, but it would have ended up exactly the same way. He was irrelevant to the result of the movie. Because if he hadn't been there, the Nazis still would have taken the Ark of the Covenant to the island and opened it, and the angels would have killed them all, and then that would have been the end of the movie, and it would have just sat there, and it would have been exactly the same ending, except without two people tied to a post.
I would have to agree with it.
And that's the whole thing about creating narrative. You create narrative and you so focus on certain parts of the narrative that other parts of the narrative completely slip by you.
Yeah, that's true.
So, I mean, the average watcher of this movie that doesn't understand genetics and how DNA works would be fine with it. It wouldn't bother them a bit.
Happily bamboozled.
But biologists have problems with this shit, right? Okay. So that's why I'm a pain in the ass on this particular.
Just don't get weirded out when that technology turns out to be truth, and then I pay you a visit and tell you, man,
hey,
your great grandma was fine, bro.
You know, I was having that exact same thought a couple of days ago, just sitting there watching people walk past going, every one of these people walking past, you know, that depressed-looking mother over there, the little old lady staggering along over there, they are all fine teenage women, you know, gorgeous young women at one point. And I was thinking, like, you know, we're all so fixated on how we look and how other people look, and it's all a matter of when, at the time at which you see them in their lives.
And the messed up part is that we still feel the same way with more experience.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just human behavior. It's an unfortunate thing we just have to deal with.
It's a combination of human behavior and a lack of self-awareness, which is something difficult to achieve in a constant state, and that most people don't even do.
Well, there's that whole idea of growing old together, and when you love somebody and you're well connected to them, and your relationship goes well, you grow old together, and you don't see it. That's the person you love. It doesn't matter what they look like.
Yeah, but
the introductory information that you get from someone when you first meet them is what they look like. That's the very first thing. Unless you're blind, that's what you get. So
then you know how they feel like.
Well, you may start with that, Gio, but you get arrested for that over here. So
a blind guy.
Okay. Moving on to the
damn, bro, Australians, you guys don't play around.
Moving on to the next thing. What I was
groping even for the sense of sighting.
What I was going to say is the inner image, and I think that's the major issue. Is your inner image it never matches what we see in the mirror.
That's true.
And
not only that, but nobody really shows who they really are to the outer world. Most people don't even get to know themselves at a deep level.
True.
You know, most of us are most people are way too concerned curating a version that is acceptable and likable to society.
Yeah, totally.
You know, and that keeps us from sometimes even being our authentic selves.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's expected by society. I mean, you look at all these couples that get together and they've got to present their best self to the other person in case the other person ends up hating them. You know, you've got to brush your teeth every 5 minutes. You've got to make sure there's nothing caught between your teeth. You've got to, you don't burp, you don't fart, you don't have body odor. You've got to be a perfect human being or you won't be liked. And it's not just the expectation of the person doing all that, but society expects that as well. So people get it into their heads that that's what people are supposed to be like. And when they're not, they get disappointed. And it destroys relationships that shouldn't be destroyed because it's bullshit.
You want to know how hilarious society is? That you get how many times you've heard, "Oh, they're not together anymore, but they look like a perfect couple. They never fought, and they can stand each other now."
Hey, you know what? If a couple doesn't fight, they're not a perfect couple. You've got to have fights.
Oh, that's scary, bro.
You've got to get upset with each other because the makeup sex is great. Anyway,
that statement.
Yes, Mary.
That statement scares me.
Does it?
And Gio knows why. Gio,
you don't ever fight with your missus?
No.
I suppose it's possible. I've never experienced it.
They're an anomaly.
But I guess I'm just a passionate man.
Robert and her are an anomaly in the Matrix, though.
Yeah. Well, there's always exceptions that make.
I love makeup sex.
That is a bad thing about it. There's no makeup.
You know, Robert, you could fake a fight so you can have fake makeup.
You know, that is a great idea.
Simulated.
Oh God.
Simulated fight and then simulated.
Okay, Ray, stop. You're helping them traumatize me. He's banging my aunt.
Do you want to eat spaghetti today? Yes, I love it. Me too.
This is great. I'd watch that show.
That's what happens when I go to visit and you guys are fighting about food.
I want to see a fight about Star Trek. I want to see a fundamental schism in the Robert household about Star Trek. That would be awesome.
She's starting to bring up some things that I never noticed.
And then you could have zero gravity.
She
makeup
did the
sex. That
Princess
would be
Leia on
even
you
better.
already.
I can't wait until she out techno babbles him. That's what I want to see.
The question for Gio: did you really want to know?
No.
But they could have just turned up the inertial dampeners and then they would have been fine. You can't do that. You'd end up with overloading the positron reactor. You can't. I just want to see that fight. That'd be awesome.
Baby, it was supposed to be Alfredo. No, Bolognese.
Oh, wow.
Come on, Robert. Your noodles limp. Get up. You got to perform.
I said rotini. No fettuccine.
Oh, God. Okay.
Fettuccine al Gresby.
Going back to the question that I was going to
There
ask.
was a question?
There was a question that I never got to ask.
No, there were just a lot of doubts.
When I watched this film for the very first time, and to be honest, I would have to sadly say, even every time that I seen this film, including the last time that I seen this film, there is a particular scene towards the end of the movie where Maria sees the image of the Assassin's Creed member that looks like her. You all
yeah.
remember that scene, right?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know what that means. At first I thought maybe she is the ancestor of a creed, and then at the end when she said she's vowing revenge, because I was thinking, oh, maybe she's going to join Cal, and at the end it's like, nope, she's not joining Kyle. Cal just killed her father. So
But she stood by it.
what do you? Yeah, that's another thing too. She just stood there and let him go by.
She understand. Here's the thing. They leave that. They did some kind of like insection bullshit in there. So they leave you to think whatever you want. There's not gonna be a sequel. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
But if you think about it, she understands the atrocity of what the Templars want to do.
Yes, she
That
does.
is why they didn't let her have a choosing on the outcome, because she cared about her patients, she cared about the science, and she cares about the bigger picture. But she was working for the big guy that just cared for power and control.
Mhm.
That's why when she saw the assassin and Lynch tells him, "Come on, you gotta finish this. You started it," and she just stands by it. Everything he asked him when he asked her impliedly to join her was to cooperate and not scream or something and ruin the attempt, and she didn't.
Yeah, but the scene that I'm talking about is a little earlier than that. Is when they are in the Anima's room,
Hmm.
and she sees the Assassin's Creed that looks like her, and that's the question that I have. It's like, what does that mean? Is she an ancestor? Is she supposed to be a Assassin's Creed?
It could imply that she had an ancestor that was an assassin. You know that it's not really impossible to have a doppelganger, much less one in your lineage. God knows how many lines behind of generations. You know, there
Mhm.
could be somebody that looks exactly like me that was born in my lineage more than 1,000 years ago. It's even curious that when you have kids, your kids are more likely to have any genetical characteristic of your parents than yours.
What do you think about that question, Ray? When you saw that scene?
Well, just to correct Gio, yes for the mother, no for the father.
No, for the father.
Yeah, I'll explain why in the science behind science fiction, but you're half right.
Okay.
So,
At
what was
least
your
I have
question, Robert?
something
Sorry?
right.
The question is, when I saw that for the first time, and including all the many times up to the last time that I saw this film, the scene where Maria sees that Assassin's
Yeah.
Creed.
I mean, it's genetically, it's a little hard to imagine because you're a conglomerate of the genes from all your ancestors, not and every time there's a generation, there's another lot of genes that come in, unless, of course, your parents were brother and sister or some other combination of relations close in your family tree. There's going to be new genes introduced into the mix. So if you go back 5 or 6 generations, that's removing 5 or 6 different lots of genes that came in that changed the way you look. So it's hard to imagine that you're going to get an ancestor that looks exactly like you. They may have similarities, but I can't see them looking exactly. It may just be, dumb luck that, if your family doesn't have genes coming in from a long distance, like you all live in the one little village, then that could happen, I guess, because the genes are all intermingling in a small volume with small variation.
This is frowned upon in modern society, but how common was 2 generations ago for cousins to be married? Don't even go further. My grandmother and my mother's father and your wife's father, they were third cousins. For one generation, they didn't share a last name. They actually have this. We use second last names, so we use the paternity last name and the maternity last name. But the paternity last name is the one that passes on. But we use them both. My grandfather and grandmother, which are the parents of my mom and Robert's wife, they literally have the same second last name. They just wouldn't pass on into them. That's very normal for like cousins being their cousin or second cousins to be married before.
Is that like bueno?
My grandfather was Bueno Núñez and my grandmother was Núñez Buenos.
Oh wow! I heard
my mother is Núñez Bueno.
I heard bueno, and I don't know if I'm overhearing things somewhere, and I don't know. It's just
they are rumors.
Yeah, now you actually that you're probably right on the money there. That the closer the family knit is, so if you're from a small island which doesn't have a wide genetic variation, you're not getting people coming in from outside. Then the genes would all be cycling around, and then people would all be reasonably similar, and you could theoretically get somebody who looked very similar to you, in generations past.
Yeah.
I
mean, on my case,
there's a big population. It doesn't.
I mean, and just to play devil advocate, in my own case, it's completely impossible. For example, because the Dominican Republic was a big mecca of slavery and immigration, so we are mixed with Africans, we're mixed with Chinese, we're mixed with Europeans. We have Indians from natives from the land too. In some point, Dominican Republic was a Nazi base in 1940s in the north. So like you go to the mountains where you think you're gonna see primitive people, and they live very primitively and simple, but they're like blonde blue eyes, so like I know in my case, for example, it's not likely, but in places that are very remote, that are not very in contact with the outer world, it's more likely that it could happen. God knows all these neighbors, even though they have different last names, 10 generations back, it was just a little village.
Yeah.
I mean, the main reason that you don't want to marry too closely into your own family or reproduce closely into your own family is deleterious genes, which generally are now this. I'm just trying to remember the correct terms. So you've got.
It makes the offspring prone to have genetical defects, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's the upshot. So
a copy of a copy of a copy.
You have so the recessive genes. So you've got genes that you get 2 lots of genes, right? One from mum and one from daddy, and they combine into chromosomes, and on these chromosomes you've got a copy from mummy and a copy from daddy. Now, if the gene that comes from one parent is recessive and the other one is dominant, then the dominant one will show up, and that's like black hair is dominant over blonde hair or red hair. You need 2 red-haired genes, one from each parent, to get a red-headed child. Or the dominant one has to be mutated and fail. And then the recessive one will be expressed and you'll get a red-headed child. Right. So you can get a red-headed child with the dominant gene there, but it has to be inactivated somehow. But dominant genes, like you look at Asian populations, they're 99.9999% black hair, because black hair color is dominant. But you get populations like in Norway and Germany stuff. There's lots of blonde people. Blonde I'm doing it at this very basic level, but there's different levels of dominance. But black hair is always dominant over blonde and brown and red. But if there's no black gene there, then the next most dominant one is blonde. So you get blonde people in populations where there's a lot of blonde hair genes. There's a lot of blonde haired people. But red hair is very recessive. So it's like right at the bottom. And the same thing happens with eye color. The same thing happens with all sorts of things. But a lot of deleterious, which means, it's going to cause problems for the fetus and the adult if it gets that far, are recessive. And they're recessive because if you get 2 of them together and they're expressed, it will often kill the fetus before it's even born. Or you'll end up with a disabled person for whatever reason with 2 of these recessive genes. Now, if you have people who are closely genetically related making babies, there's a much better chance of those 2 recessive genes, because they exist in both parties because they're closely related, coming together into the child. And that's why you get a lot of these royal families in Europe back in the day that were closely intermingling because they didn't want their royal genes to be polluted by the common folk, the masses.
And that's why you have King Tut that only lived to be 16 years old.
Well, I don't know about King Tut, but certainly a lot of the European royal lines were very inbred. It's called inbred. And that means that they were, making babies with their sisters.
But are they gluten-free?
Whatever. They're first cousins. It's recommended that first cousins shouldn't marry and have offspring. And certainly people in the same family, be it in the same generation or a generation above or below, shouldn't intermarry. It shouldn't marry and have children because of the recessive gene issue.
All right.
That is
cousin, I'll adopt. And
that is the reason why that sort of thing is socially unacceptable more than anything else, because you get bad endings, right? You get bad results. And there's a lot of paintings of royals in Middle Ages and stuff like that, and they're obviously fucked up.
Bro, the biggest family known in history. They're even in Assassin's Creed sagas. The Borgias.
Yeah. The
Borgias. They control the Vatican, and they have relations with each other, brothers and sisters, and stuff like that. And it's all across history. Even though it was tried to keep quiet, it was the norm. And I mean, they were the law. Who were to actually say something against them?
I mean, you can get lucky and not have something like that. You can have a normal offspring from close related.
But it's a gamble. It's a gamble.
But yeah, it's a huge gamble, and it's more likely than not that you're going to get Down syndrome or some other heart problems or something that's going to either kill the fetus in the womb or produce a disabled child.
Yeah, that's true.
And of course, viable offspring is what sex is all about. So that's why it's recommended not to do that.
So people, don't bang your cousin, please. There's plenty of fish in the water.
Second cousins are considered genetically variable enough that it's not.
Just pretend you're in a family then.
But first cousins or closer. Don't do that.
Okay.
From Assassin's Creed to Hillbillies. Get me my banjo.
Assassin's Creed Alabama.
Is
Cletus? Cletus?
Yeah, boy.
that my cue to move on to the last
Yeah, it could be. Do we want last thoughts?
Exactly.
Over
the
here,
last one.
cousin. I want to see you.
Okay, so I don't know if I should start with Ray for the last question, and we can move on. What is the last thought of this movie?
It's a great adventure. It's not a bad story. It's just the supporting scientific structure is complete bullshit. If it wasn't complete bullshit, it would be fine. I mean, the special effects were good, the ideas were good, the action was good, the drama was good, the tension was good. There's some stuff left up to the watcher to decide what was going to happen. It did look like they were setting up for a sequel, but it doesn't seem like that happened. The whole hunting through memories of ancestors to try and find out what happened to something that was lost is a great sort of storyline. It's up there with Raiders of the Lost Ark and all those sort of. I'm trying to remember the author. You remember the movie Sahara?
Oh, I love that movie.
It was great. I love Sahara because I've been reading the books. So that was a 2005 film.
I think that's the one that I watched.
Yeah, with Matthew McConaughey. All right.
That's the one that I love.
Yeah,
that movie.
So it's sort of a treasure question. I'm trying to remember the author of the books. The character is Dirk Pitt. And he wrote a whole bunch of them, but I can't remember the guy. Clive Cussler. There it is. Yeah, so the Clive Cussler novel's about Dirk Pitt and he's sort of like a modern day Indiana Jones. And I'm really disappointed that they only ever made one of that movie and didn't keep them going, because it was a good fun rollick. And this was a good fun rollick. It was a little bit darker than the sort of Dirk Pitt novels and the Sahara movie, but it all had that sort of mystery from the past, trying to solve it with technology, and there was a lot of things about using people to get to an end, and those people being dragged into the conflict that's been going on for hundreds of years. And I got to say that what the Templars were doing is pretty damn evil, at least the Templar elders. And that was something else I was going to bring up, but I was looking up things about Templars in modern works, and it says here, in modern works, the Templars generally are portrayed as villains, misguided zealots, representatives of an evil secret society, or the keepers of a long-lost treasure. Several modern organizations claim heritage from the medieval Templars as a way of enhancing their own image or mystique. So, Templars are more regularly these days being cast as the villains, or people with an ideal that's either misplaced or out of time, and are still pushing their agenda from centuries ago into today as well. And certainly in this movie, that was a fairly strong point, that the Templars have been trying for hundreds of years to basically control humanity, get them to behave, make them docile. And they've been doing pretty well. They kind of feel like they're getting there with consumerism, and this is where Captain Chaospiracy Theory could dive in and talk about. That's a pretty massive conspiracy theory right there, very Illuminati. And it was good that the way they set up the good guys and the bad guys, that the good guys were the bad guys, in that the assassins are supposedly the good guys trying to keep humanity to have free choice,
Mm-hmm.
where the good guys, who these guys who are supposedly running all these facilities to rehabilitate people and all this sort of stuff, are actually just using them to try and get this Apple thing so that they could control humanity. So, I mean, it had a great backstory. It had a really interesting premise. It's just it really fell down in the execution of the science. If they hadn't screwed that up, if they'd come up with something that held together better and didn't go directly against scientific understanding, then I think I would have given it a much higher rating than I personally did at the end of the day. But of course, if you're not a scientist, go watch it for fun. You'll be fine. If you like parkour, especially.
Awesome. So I think I'll go in the middle here, and I will let our Captain Chaos go last.
We're making a sandwich with Robert Ray.
I would have to agree with everything you said, Ray. I would second that. I believe that if you care about science, you would have to suspend your science beliefs and your knowledge, because that's always it's gonna bug you. However, if you're not that kind of person, this is going to be an enjoyable film. It's still an enjoyable film. If you heard from our very own mad scientist, he still enjoyed it. It's just that it's one of those things that it just bugs you, right?
Mm.
But the film was great. I'm going to speak from the point of view of a fanboy. And I think that is the reason why I enjoy this film so much, why I like this film so much, and why I forgive it for the scientific inaccuracies. And I think that's exactly what I did when I watched this film. I completely disregarded all scientific knowledge, and I really, really enjoy not only for what they end up doing, because to be honest with you, I was scared when they announced it, when I saw the trailer for the first time. Because I was a fan of the games. Granted, I'm not a big gamer. I on that IP, I only played 2, but it was a game that I enjoy well enough that got me really excited when they announced the film. And of course, I was slightly scared, but I was, to be honest with you, I was really happy with the results, and I really enjoyed this film. And that is my last thought. So I'll move on to the chaos.
First off, I'm disappointed that you were scared for this. You should have been traumatized by Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball is the best film ever made in history of films.
I thought you were gonna actually correct yourself and say the biggest piece of shit.
I thought that was a Matrix.
Never mind. Go ahead.
Some weird fan fiction that make it way too far. I think that this movie is fun. Even it's fun to see how crazy drives Ray with his very good scientific fundamentals, DNA regression and time traveling.
Yeah,
but I think that you might find difficulties to enjoy it if you are too much of a gatekeeper for the IP, because of some little difference here and there. But
I
I
hadn't
think
considered that.
yes, like for example, the whole thing on the Animus with the holographic environment, that doesn't happen in any game. You literally are kind of like a Matrix plug thing. They put you some sensors like the Nerf gear in SAO, and you're laying down, and they're able to monitor and see everything you're doing, but you're laying on a bed. You're not like, well, Spider Man, So that there was a big change. That is like, yeah, I mean, if you like your IP and you don't like when they say, imagine that Spider Man, instead of throwing web out of the wrist, spits it out of the mouth. That's kind of the big difference that they made in there. But I'm being overly critical with it. The interesting thing I found too is that it kind of gave a little bit more of reality to the science behind muscle memory. doing things like that, saying, "Oh, it's like riding a bike." Of course, the older you get, the higher the risk that it's gonna hurt badly when you fall off. But you eventually get the hang of it, no matter how old you are. And I think that they kind of access that possibility by doing that to make more plausible the muscle memory of an ancestor being able to being downloaded into the present being. But I mean, it's a fun movie. The good thing, one of the things that I like about Assassin's Creed is that every story that comes up is unique on its own, yet it's connected to all the others.
Mhm.
So it's like a sandbox to just add more richness to the story. Uh, and I think that if you can put aside hard changes, you can enjoy the movie for sure. And we all agree, I think it's unanimous. If you're able to put your scientific mind to a side, you can enjoy it. If not, you might have trouble.
By the way, Geo, spiders don't spit silk. They have spinnerets on their abdomen, which produce it.
Huh?
Spiders don't spit silk.
Well, I'm talking about Spider-Man.
Yeah, I know. You were saying, would you be freaked out more if Spider-Man, rather than shooting it out of his wrist, was spitting it out of his mouth? But it comes out of their ass, basically.
Yeah, that's how he gets Mary Jane.
Other
Maybe
end.
that's what when he gets Mary Jane, she kind of like tenses up and he goes like it falls a little bit more. And that's all my thoughts, including Spider-Man's clenching his butt.
Oh, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Okay, so I think we're ready for our last segment.
The science and sci-fi.
The science can sci-fi.
Anybody's ready for this segment today? No.
Is there science? I had to admit to you guys, I had an issue. Not an issue. I had an issue trying to get together.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. I'll go first. I'll get my vitriol out, and then you
It's
can
like
clean
itching to
things
get
up
done
afterwards.
with this bullshit.
Yeah, I am. It's true. Okay, so I don't know how much the listeners know about DNA. They've heard about it before, but they probably don't know much about it. But it's basically genetic code, and it's highly compressed. If you were to take all the genes out of your DNA in one cell and stretch them out in a line, it would go around the world a couple of times. That's how highly compressed that it is. But it's basically genetic information. It's information that tells a cell how to produce proteins to do different things for life to function. So Watson and Crick in the 50s were credited with discovering the double helix of DNA, the fact that there's two helixes that wind around each other and two different sides that connect together. And then later on, they discovered that those two sides were peeled apart and one side was red, and then it was put back together. So that's basically how DNA is read. And then that produces RNA, which is a messenger form, which is doesn't last as long as the DNA. And then that's sent off to a structure called ribosomes in the cell to produce proteins. And there's not just the information about how to make the protein, but there's also information about when it should be made and all that sort of stuff on the DNA. So it's quite a complicated little structure. So
maybe that's the reason why poor choice of foods do create passive and active fat.
So proteins basically that are coded in your DNA do all the stuff that makes you, from producing different cell types to the way your signaling works in your brain and through your body with hormones and all those sorts of things. That's all busy little proteins.
Let's drink protein shakes then, and we're just gonna get bigger and be more of myself.
So what makes us different is that the information on the DNA is different, and not all your DNA is read regularly. There was some belief that a lot of it was virus code that had been introduced into your DNA and gone dormant. But more recently, they're discovering that a lot of it is information that you're just not currently using, but may use under certain circumstances. So DNA is really difficult to unravel all the meaning of. It's one thing to read a DNA sequence. So like we've discussed before in the Science of Science Fiction about the first Human Genome Project took 13 years to complete, and it took efforts across the globe in different labs trying to read that information to put it all together. And now they can do it in about 4.5 hours. I think the record is 4.5 hours for a full human genome translation. Now that is getting all the DNA sequence out, but actually reading it and working out what it does and where things are right and where things are wrong is much, much harder and takes much, much longer. So that's not the full story. That's like finding the Dead Sea Scrolls and getting all the letters and writing them down somewhere. You've got all the letters, but you haven't translated it. You don't know what it says because it's in an ancient language that nobody knows. So it could take years to try and work out what those scrolls say. And then depending on the translator and how you translate it and all that sort of thing, then there's all sorts of possibilities for different understandings depending on how it's translated. Much like DNA, trying to work out what each bit does, you can kind of do highly crunchy computerized comparisons between different DNA sequences and work out what they do. But it's all the controlling sequences and the initiation sequences and stuff that depends on when it's going to be activated. And it's the interaction between proteins and signals and the DNA. It's really, really complex and difficult to, get an understanding of the whole thing together. And that's why DNA is still a bit of a mystery to us. Having said that, getting, full 4K memories from somebody 500 years ago out of your DNA is complete and utter bullshit, right? Doesn't work that way. It's not like old VHS tapes that they're pulling
really?
data off of. Yeah, really, sorry. But there is this interesting thing called epigenetics. Now, epigenetics has been evolving along besides, the study of DNA and genetics for, about 80 years now. And it's actually very interesting. So the definition of epigenetics, now where is that? There it is. Okay. Epigenetics is the study of how your behaviors and environment can cause changes that affect the way your genes work. Unlike genetic changes, epigenetic changes are reversible and do not change your DNA sequence, but they can change how your body reads your DNA sequence. So remember I was talking about initiators and controlling genes and all that sort of stuff. There's another level on top of that, which is epigenetics, which can change how your genes are read and things like that. But as Captain Chaos was mentioning about your grandparents, what your grandparents lived through will affect your genes and won't affect your genes specifically, but will affect how your genes are expressed. So if somebody has a really a storage metabolism like I do, my grandparents were very poor and had a lot of trouble finding food and getting enough to eat back when they were alive, which was around 1900 or earlier. Because my father was born in 1927. Now, because they didn't have enough to eat, my epigenetics leans towards a storage metabolism because it's trying to store as much energy as possible for the hard times. Of course, I'm not living in the hard times, so I'm a fat bastard. But I can just look at a piece of cake and get fat. I don't even have to eat the bloody thing. But that is sort of what epigenetics is meant to do. It's supposed to be short-term changes in the way your body systems work to take into account changes that may not be permanent. So, hard times for food in your grandparents' generation means that you have a storage metabolism. Good times for food in your grandparents' era may well mean that you have a fast metabolism. So like my grandchildren may have a fast metabolism because I hadn't wanted for food. So these are the sort of epigenetic adjustments. They're sort of like minor adjustments that are going on all the time thanks to epigenetics that aren't permanent changes, but are adjusting how things work so that you're more likely to live successfully through the times you find yourself. But the whole thing is human situations change so rapidly. Like we've had, since my grandparents' time, we've had 2 world wars, we've had people landing on the moon, we've had the digital age, all the shit has happened, which changes the way humans work. That Robert's just informed me via PM that his grandkids will not be able to watch sad movies. That's how his epigenetics is going to adjust them to our times. So there you go. Could be, I don't know. But epigenetics is interesting in that it's not based in your DNA and it jumps a generation. And part of the reason it does that is because the eggs that were used to create me were formed when my mother was in my grandmother's womb developing. So that's what I mean about Geo being half right, because the mother's genetics are formed when they're born, before they're born. So it's very, very much, their epigenetics is very much related to their grandparents.
Got it.
To my grandparents.
When it comes to the man, it's more of a chance because depending if you have a good batch, because you constantly just emptying it out. And
exactly. Exactly. So the male genes are created at the time. Now, I haven't looked into how epigenetics works with male genes, but certainly it's more immediate. So maybe
make sure that you get blue balls when you're gonna have a good offspring. So it's like explosion.
I recommend that if you're attempting to make children, that you stop drinking booze. I know that's boring, and you may need it, to get it on. But limit the amount of booze that you're drinking. Eat healthily. Get some exercise. Get some sleep.
Alcohol
and you will make better babies.
See her beautiful.
Well, that's a given, but I'm just talking about the male's condition.
What they say is, if you want to make sure that you conceive, when you're finishing, make sure that she's like legs up, and she has to stay like that for a couple of hours.
Can we get back to the science?
We're talking about genetics, bro.
I was being
genetics.
Scientific.
You know how epic is the genetics of that?
Oh God. Okay.
Because the genetics that you're going to be passing on is going to be far more immediate than what the woman's passing on. That's going to come from the grandparents. So, that's basically a non-genomic modification of how your genes express. That's outside of the realms of what the DNA is doing, but what they're presenting in this movie, which is being able to get 4K Ultra HD memories from an outside perspective of what happened to somebody 500 years ago is
far-fetched.
You mean it's not a 4K recorder?
No. not even 480p, dude. Look, genes don't record. What genes do is they mutate, and oftentimes it's random. And they change in ways that if it changes too much, it can kill the offspring before they can develop, and therefore they won't reproduce.
Are you denying that DNA has information stored on it?
No.
That we perhaps are not able to completely comprehend and read to the T?
Oh, we can understand the mechanism, but we can't understand the exact control methods. But we understand the mechanism. We understand what it codes for, and it is not outside POV memories from 500 years ago.
It's not video, man. Stop it.
Oh, come on, man. I wanted to see my great grandmother making my great grandfather.
Okay.
I'm horrible.
Chaos kinks aside, we're,
ancestral kinks.
yeah. Stop derailing my train.
What would you call that? What would you call that? Ancestral BDSM.
Hey, Chaos. I have a question for you. But actually, it's a statement for you.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Go get me a Pepsi. And for all of you out there who doesn't know what we're talking about, you gotta download the episode of Cherry 2000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go get me.
Hey, look, it shouldn't be too much longer that'll be on the YouTube channel, so you can check it out there.
Yeah.
Because the hashtag makes an appearance quite a few times in the ticket.
That's a good hashtag.
It sure is. Yeah, so I just want to wrap this one up in saying that there's a lot of stuff we don't fully understand about how genes work and how epigenetics works, but none of it is 4K HD outside POV memories from 500 years ago. I'm sorry. That's just how it is. Now, if they got the spirit of the person to come and possess the guy and reenact the memories so that they could, draw forth conclusions from that, sure, I wouldn't have minded that at all. That would have been cool, but
use your imagination, Ray. They're trying to say that there's parts of your ancestors in you that you could access.
There is, but not memories. As I was saying before Gio cut me off, genes basically encode the information to make you. What they don't do is change radically, reacting to the environment. The epigenetics allows them to do a little bit of that, but you get mutations in the genetic code. Now, if the mutation is severely deleterious, you as a person wouldn't exist because you wouldn't have developed. You would have died in the womb or as a young'un. If it's non-deleterious and unhelpful, it won't give you any benefit, but it can still stay in your genome until a time when the environment changes and it is beneficial, in which case you will have an advantage to reproduce. The whole point is if your genes get to the point where you can reproduce, then they get passed on. If they get passed on, then they must be at least usable, okay? If they get passed on under difficult circumstances, that means that they're beneficial, and therefore theoretically they will go up in the population because you survived and others didn't. And that is how populations change. It takes time and it takes random mutations that are beneficial and then become useful within changes to the environment. And that's why
what's called the higher selective process.
Yeah, it's natural selection.
Natural selection.
Now, having said that, human beings don't undergo much natural selection at all anymore because we have medicine and air conditioning and all sorts of other shit that stops us from being directly affected by the environment. And, I have a bunch of deleterious genes in my body, autoimmune conditions, far too many.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm still here. I would have died without insulin.
I think that it doesn't judge down, and it never did so much to a biological standpoint as much as a behavioral pattern, because you can have health conditions, but you do the primal roles of a traditional male. You're a provider. You're the father. You care for your family. You protect them. Yeah. I mean, you could be a prehistoric man with diabetes, but you still will be a good hunter probably. You probably fall off flat in your face sometimes because you got an attack. It's like, give me sugar. But other than that,
before 1924, people with type 1 diabetes wasted away and died.
Yeah, that's true.
They didn't get necrosis in the feet
of action. If they and type 1 diabetes tends to come on in childhood, so they wouldn't have reproduced. So all their genes were gone.
Yep.
And people don't realize, but this is the main reason why when you go to a doctor's visit, they ask you all those questions about, your they call it the medical history. It's like, did your father, did your grandfather had this? Did your father had this? And I don't know. I just figure I mention it because I wonder if you guys knew why was that, and this conversation brings a light as to why.
A lot of those sort of problems, like current world health problems today, like heart failure, heart attack, obesity, diabetes, all these sorts of things are all inherited. So if your parents had the genes for them, it's very likely you do. I'm concerned about my son because he's got I don't know exactly what the percentage chance is, but he's got a percentage chance of inheriting my diabetes. Now, none of my parents and none of my grandparents had diabetes. I just happened to end up with it. I must have had a variation in my genome for whatever reason that then allowed it to express. Which
happens because you were drinking in college cereal with Red Bull.
No, I wasn't. And considering I got diabetes before college, it wouldn't have had any effect whatsoever. But
well, what do you know? Tricks is not just for kids.
Well, we're coming up on trick or treat time anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we are very lucky as a species that we have the intelligence to enable people with deleterious genes to still live. But the problem is then you get to pass those on. So once the world has an adjustment, like if society falls and we no longer have these therapies, a lot of people are going to drop dead and they're going to be out of the gene pool. And on a personal level, that sucks. But on a species survival level, it's hugely important to remove these deleterious genes from the population.
The purification.
But in general, if mankind's society does not collapse and we actually find a way to continue on past the destruction of spaceship Earth, and we keep our technology level high, then we may get to the point where people who have deleterious genes in their genome can have them edited out, have them replaced with non-deleterious versions, so that the future offspring will be fine. Looking forward to that personally, but I mean that's the hope of the science behind sci-fi and science fiction, that rather than science ideas now and the science that we create now and in the future having negative effects, we can actually create positive effects that will take us into the sort of future that Star Trek suggests we're going to have, which is more positive than negative.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm looking forward to.
Where you're going to be happy to be disintegrated in your ship to be recomposed somewhere else.
I'm taking a shuttle. Fuck that. I'm not, no way. Not happening. I mean, nobody in Star Trek even considers what is actually happening with the transporters.
Yeah.
They should have like a little inside joke, so every time that they were going to teleport, they say,
well, what they did, it was a whole episode.
Farewell.
It was Riker and his clone.
Riker and what?
Riker and his teleportation clone.
Oh yes, I remember
that one.
Yes,
that was fucked up. That episode.
That's on the
list of the 10 most fucked up Star Trek.
I remember something like that for Altered Carbon, actually.
Yeah.
That he double sleeves himself.
I mean, that's the whole thing with Gene of AI, that you're not allowed to make copies of people's psyches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that everywhere that the hypothesis that you can clone yourself or something, the idea of having two of you is always highly illegal. Anywhere that you put that sci-fi hypothesis, it is forbidden to be there two of you.
Well, it creates a huge amount of problems. I mean, misrepresentation, exploitation. There's so many things that can be a problem with that. I mean,
come on, man.
If
I knew my doppelganger,
losing human rights because
I will be living my best life if I get to know my doppelganger. All the things that I will do.
I think psychologically it would affect you because we are It's all because we have a perception, and what we perceive to be it's our reality. And the single fact that knowing that you are a clone, that the original is out there, I think, I don't know, just my opinion, psychologically, it might, affect you. Oh, well, and that's something I'm not going to say in the show.
I wouldn't.
Oh, wow. So wow, that was one of the bullets that we had for the science and science fiction, and I don't know how we're going to top that one.
I'm sorry. I've been winding up to that one for 3 days now. It's like winding up the pitch.
Hey, get something for sure, Robert. He'll be able to sleep tonight. So
Yes,
he got
definitely.
that shit out of his chest.
Yeah, thank God for that.
So, if you don't have anything else to add, I think this might conclude our show.
Hmm.
So, again, to all of you out there, thank you so much for being with us for one more episode. I hope that you really enjoy this episode, and do reach out and let us know what you think. We love the conversation. Remember, we have our website where we publish articles. And if you're watching our YouTube, you could see our mad scientist Ray is holding up to the sign. You can scan it if you're watching the YouTube video. However, if you're listening to us, the website is sciencefictionremnant.com. Remember that you can reach us about any of the episodes that we have recorded, or about any episodes that you would like to have recorded in our Discord channel. If you're listening to the pod, the link to the invite is on the description. However, if you are watching this a month later on YouTube, all you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen, and you can join us and talk to us. We're active daily, so you can just join us, and we can have the conversation. So again, thank you so much to all of you. I can speak for the entire crew here when I say thank you so much. We would not be in season 2 if it wasn't for you guys. We have over 100 and more than 100 episodes on season 2, and it's all because of you. Thank you so much. And just remember, just reach out. We are doing this for you. So if there's anything that you'd like us to do a future episode, reach out to us and let us know.
Go to Discord. I want to hear your conspiracy theories too.
Yeah, you can join up our chaos and talk chaos.
Or if you've got a IP that you really want covered and you want to have a say, come and join us. We're happy to have you on here.
Definitely. Yeah, the invitation is wide open.
And these guys don't bite unless you ask them really nicely a couple of times. So you're pretty safe.
I do it with consent only.
Again, for all of you out there, thank you so much. We really appreciate the engagement and the love and the conversation about the stuff that we love the most, which is science fiction. With that, thank you so much, and see you next time.